Hey guys, welcome to Rock Talks. Today we're talking to David Kinkade, ex-drummer of Soulfly and Borknagar. We discuss his experience recording and touring for the album Enslaved, his time in Borknagar, and his new band The Monarch. If you like this interview, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share the video with all your friends. Also, very important, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Hello, David. How are you, man? Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Rock Talks.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start with the interview. So you played with Soulfly between 2011 and 2012, and you actually recorded the album Enslaved, right? Really brutal, really influenced by death metal and the favorite by many Soulfly fans. Please tell me what's your story with the band with Max Cavalera's band. Sorry.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, how did it go? I believe David Vincent and Morbid Angel told Gloria or told Max about me. Mm-hmm. And no, you know what? It might have happened before. I reached out to Gloria, I think, because I noticed that they needed a drummer. Yeah, I had just moved. I used to live in Amsterdam. I've always jumped back and forth between Chicago and Amsterdam for a good 6 years. I had a relationship in Amsterdam. And that's when I was playing in a Norwegian band, it was easier to commute to Norway. Yeah. So I reached out to Gloria, and I think they might have reached out to David Vincent from Morbid Angel at the time. And he kind of gave me a good review, and they had me fly out to Phoenix, try out with Max, play some songs with him. And then, I don't know, like a few hours later, Gloria pulls me aside. She's like, okay, we want to use you on the new album. We want to have you play drums. Can you come out here in like a week and play on the new album? And I'm thinking, I don't have drums. My drums are in Norway. All my gear was in Norway. So I said, sure, because it was a good opportunity. So in that time, I tracked down drums through Gene Hoglan from Testament. He let me use his drums. I tracked down cymbals from Sabian. I got bass drum pedals. I got everything that I needed sent to me in like a week. It was awesome. So I flew out there, and Max had given me like a little CD with just a couple riffs on it, which I actually still have. I found it a few months ago and listened to it. It's funny because there's like 3 riffs on there that actually made it on the album. And yeah, so we went in the studio, and it was kind of just like shooting from the hip, Got everything set up on day one. I think we dialed in drum sounds. And then it's strange because I've always been a part of a studio situation to where we had a lot of prep time, like when I was in the band in Norway called Borknagar. The songs were sent to me months in advance, and everything was to a click track. And I'm like, okay, I have a way, like I listen to music or I'll hear a riff or something, and I'll visualize mentally what I think the tastiest part as regarding the drums would be. So I would have all these different ideas prepared, and this was just going in clean slate, not knowing really what we're gonna go for,
Really punk rock, right?
Yeah, I mean punk rock in a way. It was a really nice, expensive, beautiful studio. We worked with Zeus, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with Zeus, but me, Zeus is like he's like the Andy Sneap of America. I love good production. I'm a production nerd. And Andy Sneap, Jens Bogren, these guys have always kind of been the pinnacle of, heavy metal sounds. But Zeus had worked with a band called Arsis that I toured with 2007, 2008. And I was just very familiar with his work and his style of, this is in your face. It's the most ridiculously pure sounding modern metal. So I knew that it was going to turn out awesome. He had the right studio, the right guy. I'm a nerd when it comes to the studio. So I'm always like into trying new things and getting better sound stuff. And having Zeus there, it was like a dream come true.
Did you play with
And
David Vincent before? Did you do a tour with him?
I did a tour when I was playing with Arsis. We did a tour with Morbid Angel, 7 or 8 weeks in Europe. I want to say it was 2007 or it might have been 2008. It was the end of 2008.
All right.
So I got to know them pretty well. I knew Pete and Trey for years before that. So we got along good. And it's actually kind of funny. When Pete had his back problems, I was in Norway getting ready to go play Wacken with Borknagar. And I got a call from this guy, Punchy. His name's Juan Gonzalez. And he's their sound guy. He was pretty much their manager. You know, he was running the show. And he's like, they need you. Come home now. And I'm like, okay. He's like, and I got the message a few weeks later or a few days later after he had actually sent it. So when I called him, he's like, we made 2 phone calls. We called you. We called Tim Young. Tim Young answered the phone first. So would I have had the Morbid Angel gig? Who knows, you know? But
and now Tim Young plays with I Am Morbid, right? With David Vincent.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, Tim's a phenomenal drummer. I've known Tim since like 2004, 2003, 2004. He's a phenomenal drummer. So that's a good gig for him. You know, he's a good guy. He plays really, really fast. I'm old. I'm kind of broken now, so it's probably better off that he's doing it than me.
Well, but, maybe he's a bit younger than you, maybe.
No, he's older than me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
See, at the end of my days in Soulfly, I used to be like real thin and fit. And my back, I hurt my back when I lived in Amsterdam. I fell off a bicycle. And I landed on the ground on this cobblestone road, which it's zero forgiving, you know, and I felt my spine go. Brrrr. Well, I didn't think anything of it other than that it really, really hurt at the time.
You didn't go to the doctor?
No. I probably should have.
Terrible mistake.
Yeah, well, you know, I was younger. I was maybe 25 when that happened. So didn't really think anything of it. And then that night I woke up and I fell to my knees and I couldn't walk. It felt like somebody took a knife and went in my spine. So after maybe a week, my back kind of became back to normal. Like whatever had happened slipped back into the right place. I was still able to play drums. A few years go by, Soulfly happens. My back has started to go like this downhill, you know? So around, I want to say like the first or second US tour that I did with Soulfly, my back had taken a real turn for the worst. And it was like, I bought a cane. I was walking around like an old man with a cane, and I was on a whole lot of painkillers for, you know, obviously the pain. And I could get up on stage and play drums, but I couldn't put my socks on right. I couldn't put my shoes on. You know, it was horrible.
And you could play those Soulfly songs from Enslaved Live in that condition?
Yeah, pushing it with the right painkillers, and because I took a lot of those for the pain, with the right painkillers, and I was putting ice down the back of I was wearing like a belt, you know, like almost like a lumbar support belt for the back,
like for construction workers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was stuffing ice packs down there so it would just go numb. And I would make it, but it was horrible.
Yeah.
And so a couple of years pass. I had obviously left Soulfly to have a normal life. And I ended up having back surgery. And I gained a couple pounds from it. You know, you're kind of stuck on the couch for about 9 weeks, 8-9 weeks after surgery. But yeah, now sort of stuck being a dad and trying to lose weight all the time. But I play drums like 3 hours a day. It's awesome.
So
everything feels.
You quit Soulfly to stay in your house with your family.
Well, yeah. I kind of got off course here. Yeah, so jumping to that, there were a lot of little reasons why I quit Soulfly, and I think a lot of those are starting to come out now, especially with a lot of the interviews and the stuff I've been seeing in the media. I kind of stay away from saying public things, but there are a lot of things that a lot of people don't know, and they're not fair. You know, it's like, it's just not fair to people, like especially guys like Mark Rizzo, who put in years of his life
18
towards this band. And yeah, 18 exactly. And you know what, I tip my hat to him, because I honestly don't know if I could make it that long in that sort of situation with them. I mean, I'm not going to bash them as people or anything. You know, they do what they do. They love the family. They're very, you know, tribe oriented and all that. But
yeah, everybody says that.
Is that like
tribe, like it's not real.
And that's the thing, you know. Yeah. I don't want to be an asshole here, but the thing is, it's like
everybody says the same thing, man. It's got to be real. That's my opinion.
And I've watched all this since Mark left, because Mark left. You know, he wasn't pushed
Mark,
out. So. He left, and I knew he was gonna leave. I thought he was gonna leave years ago. You know, he hangs on. He's a trooper. Mark Rizzo is a fucking trooper. He plays guitar. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever played with in my life. Probably the best.
For sure.
You know, he's always prepared. He was carrying basically his parts and Max's parts on all the tours we did. You know, when we went in the studio for Enslaved, Max would come in for like 2 hours a day. And the regiment in the studio was kind of funny, because Zeus and I would drive to the studio at 7 o'clock in the morning. We would work on everything that we recorded the night before. So we would get all the parts, like, you know, I would do all these fucking crazy fills and shit. And I'd be like, what sounds the best? What fits the song the best? And we would get everything planned out and mapped out. Max would come in around 11 or 12. And we would sit there and we'd play him the songs that we did the night before until sometimes 2 in the morning. You know, so we're going on like 4 or 5 hours sleep at the most every night on this. And he would listen to it. He'd be like, oh, that's fucking killer. Okay, cool. Next song. So we would go in this room, in the studio room. He'd plug in a guitar. We'd throw a couple ideas back and forth. And then the kicker for me, and now, like I said, I don't want to sound like an asshole. I've been a Max fan, a Soulfly fan for since like 95. I discovered Sepultura. You know?
Yeah.
You having everything okay there?
Yeah, I was just closing some windows today.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, please.
I want to make sure it doesn't lag out.
I don't know.
My internet's kind of funny sometimes. My kid plays PlayStation on the internet all day long.
Oh, that's why. All right.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I was a big Sepultura fan. You know, I discovered Arise and Chaos AD at the same time, and I'm like, this is heavy. You know, this is Slayer, but it's like Slayer Metallica, but heavier. You know, and it was awesome to me. And joining Soulfly was an awesome experience for a guy like me. You know, especially being able to play and the fast shit. So Max would come in and we'd throw these riffs around, and then he would leave. And I'm like, some of these songs are just kind of like, I'm not really feeling it, you know, like it's their shit. I'm just the drummer, but it's not what it could be. And we would go into the control room, and it would be every night. It was myself, Mark, Tony, and Zeus. And I remember like the first day that we had a couple songs, Mark was like, okay, we got to play Riff Police here. There's some riffs that I heard that he was throwing around in there that I know are on one of the old albums. I'm like, really? Because I knew the albums pretty well. Sure as shit, he's thinking, and he's like, I'll never forget this. I think one of the first songs was American Steel. And he's like, that middle breakdown riff. He's like, listen to the song Frontlines, like pull it up. So I pull out my laptop. I'd listen to the song. and then there's a breakdown in it. And the riff that was the breakdown was the exact same riff as American Steel. And we're like, well, what do we do now? You know? So strange as it might sound, Mark would come up with something comparable to the rhythm.
Okay.
Like something that, you know, it felt kind of sort of in the same vein as far as the rhythm is concerned, and it would fit there, but it was something unique. And that's kind of how every song, I think the main riff in World Scum, the main riff in Plata o Plomo, that intro song, Resurgence or whatever it's called, every song is basically Mark Rizzo sitting there pulling out riffs out of his like mental riff bank. And it's like, I understand it's your band, you know, but like, give this guy some credit. He's writing, and this is just based off of my enslaved experience. But if I were to bet, you know, if I was a betting man, as they say, I would bet that Mark had a lot to do with all those albums from whenever he joined, you know, 2004, 2003, whatever it was, as far as pulling riffs out and composing those songs the way he did with Enslaved, because that's how 95% of that album was written. And nobody will tell you that, you know.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
You were
we
there.
We made an awesome album. And I've heard people say it doesn't sound like Soulfly. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't need to sound like Soulfly. It sounds like three guys who put their heart and soul into creating really awesome music. And whatever they did with it after I left, it's obviously the final result. And it turned out awesome. And I'm very proud of it, you know? So.
And how was the touring cycle for that album?
Sorry, the touring cycle, we did, I believe the first show I did was the day before New Year's Eve of 2010 or 11. Yeah, of 2010. We played LA at the Viper Room. Then we did that Dana tribute show in Phoenix the next day. And that was on New Year's Eve of 2010. Then I think a month went by, we went to Mexico for a few shows. And then we just started hitting it. I mean, and we hit the world, you know? And it was funny because we would go and we would play these incredible festivals. And it was just festival, like 70,000, 80,000 every night. And then these shows in between were playing for like 100, 150 people, you know? And it's just like, what the fuck's going on here, man? Like, I'm going real high real quick, and then it's just like, oh, you know? And I mean, you always put in the same amount of effort. Those small shows are fun, but it was like a roller coaster ride, you know? And then the last tour that I ended up doing, I call it the point A to point A, because I took off in Chicago. I flew to Germany. We did all Europe, all of UK, Ireland, all that stuff. Then we flew from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, which is a long ass flight. I don't ever recommend it. Flew there, we did some Asian dates, and my last show was in Thailand. And then I flew home from Thailand. So it was literally a circle around the world from Chicago to Chicago, you know? And it was a lot of fun. It was just very exhausting mentally, because I didn't tell them that I was going to leave the band until the very last show that we played in Europe together, because I had just been mentally pushed over my limit, you know? There's a lot of, there's a lot of reasons why.
Tell me the reasons. Something else besides the back pain, I suppose.
No, the pain, I was able to tolerate the pain, you know? It's just very unfair attitudes, you know? Like, I got to yell at these neighbors. All right, quiet.
It's okay, I can barely.
Sorry.
Here,
I
here it
need a
comes into
quiet, I need a quiet neighborhood here, man. We had old people all over the place in this neighborhood, and this is like something new. So, um, so there's, without going too much into who and why, there's a lot of unfairness as far as we're the hired help, and it's like that with anybody. It's Max and the Soulflies, basically, Max Cavalera's Soulfly. And not to be an asshole, but that's what it is. Nobody is in that band except for him. And I guess now his kid who took over for me, which, if that is what carries on the name, then so be it. But I had an assistant manager come up to me one day. Now, we were on a bus. We were always trapped in this tube together, and it's like your options of what you can do for the 17-hour drive to Lithuania are very limited. You could sit with the bus driver and smoke cigarettes, which is what I did a lot of. You can sleep, which is also what I did a lot of. Or you can go and watch TV or watch a movie. Now, when you have 3 bands trapped in a bus, there's a lot of people. You don't have much options as far as like where you can go. So I would go downstairs. Every single seat was taken up by a kid getting high, smoking weed. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want to sit here. So I go upstairs, and here's Max in his little lounge watching TV. And he's like, hey, I got a movie you got to see. Come in here. So it was some Brando movie, something about, I don't want to say, no, it might not have been a Brando movie. It was a Vietnam movie. I'll be safe and leave it there. I don't remember the name of it, but I think Chaos AD had a bunch of sort of influence lyrically from it. And I'm sitting there watching this movie, and the assistant manager comes up to me later on and says, this is Max's room. You're not allowed to be in here. And I'm like, Max invited me in here to watch a movie, dude. The guy who I'm referring to is basically Gloria's drone. He does all like the administrative, here, sign here, and here's your paycheck. He's one of those guys. But
all right.
I was just kind of, I was pushed kind of like, it rubbed me wrong. It was like, first off, I'm trapped in this bus with you, with him, with everybody the fuck else. Like, you're going to tell me I can't be in his room? What is he? Who is he, like Axl fucking Rose? Come on, dude. I've never gone up to Max and stared at him like, oh man, you're Max, like, give me a break, dude. He invited me in to watch a movie. So I went and watched a movie. And that was just one of the many things, having 15,000 kids around on the road, and like disrespectful kids, which not all of them. There's one person in particular, Jason, who was kind of like the kid that you never hear about. He was my drum tech. Jason is the nicest, quiet, polite, awesome person. And I always really enjoyed just hanging out with Jason, having a smoke, because his aura that he puts off as a person, it brings you down to kind of like a mellow, chill level. And there's
is he
not
one
many
of Max's son?
Yeah, he's one of it's Richie and Igor and Zion and all. It's Richie's brother. I think it's Richie's younger brother. All so right. He's a great kid, and he helped me out. He set up my huge drum set every night for me. Perfect. Just a great guy all around. And if there's one person from the whole camp that I wish was still in my life, it's that guy, because he's just a great human being. But there was a lot of bullshit otherwise. And I could not foresee myself wanting to be around that for 18 years, give or take, Yeah. There were a lot of things every day, man. The negatives outweighed the positives. And it sucked because I loved Rizzo. I loved Campos, Tony Campos is a monster. He's a monster human being. He's a monster on stage, and he's just like, he's got such an awesome attitude as far as like, it's metal, you know. That guy's got his mind is like metal, you know. And if I would say something stupid, which I admit I say a lot of stupid things sometimes, you know, especially when we drink, he'd be like, fuck you, you're an idiot. But, you know, just great people. It's just, it sucks that there's a few that can really bring you to this level where you don't want to do it anymore.
Did you get credits on the album for playing drums on Slave?
Yeah, it says that I played drums. You know, I think it should say, I think it should honestly say like written by everybody.
Oh,
you know,
right.
because Tony sat there and helped arrange everything. I mean, he's like, no, try this part, you know, after this part instead. You know, let's do this 4 times instead of 2. And Rizzo would pull these riffs out. And it's just like, where did this come from? You're sitting there in the corner and you're playing like all this. And it came from good old fashioned practice, to be honest with you. Like Rizzo's kind of a guitar geek, you know. I just saw him the other day here in Chicago, and his two regiments, he works out and he plays guitar. And when he's not doing one, he's doing the other. You know, but I wish that album said like written by Soulfly. Then it would be fair, you know, or written by, you know, Mark and Tony and arranged by Mark and Tony and Max or whatever, even though Max contributed this little itty bitty bit, you know. And the fans know, you know, people that listen to it, they know you're not going to hear another album like that come out of there.
Exactly.
Because you're missing,
I was about to say that, yeah.
Yeah, you're missing Camps, you're missing Mark, missing me. Like, and I'm not saying I'm like Lars Ulrich or, you know, God's gift to heavy metal or something. Everything I touch is gold, but like I put my balls into that. I put sweat and tears and, you know, I really worked my ass off on that record. And it's like,
yeah.
And so did the other 3.
One can tell it's a great record for sure. So move on. Let's talk about Borknagar, the other band you played in. You actually recorded 2 albums with them, Universal and Earth. Did I say that right?
I call it turd.
Why?
It's funny because that album, when we had the pre-production, I had it for a couple months in advance, and it was all the songs written, all the guitar tracks tracked out, and it was a click track. And I'm like, this is going to be insanely monumental. And I recorded drums, everything was good. And then I joined Soulfly once I had come home, you know, a month later, whatever. I joined Soulfly, and we kind of had a mutual agreement, like, I can't live in Norway because I tried. You know, I lived there for a few months. Everything is insanely expensive in Norway.
Really?
I had a little 1-bedroom apartment, and I didn't know the language. You know, I was that guy. And Norway didn't work. I had broken up with my girlfriend that I lived with in Holland, and I'm just moving back to America and being done with it. So with that being said, we had a talk, and it's like, you know what? It's better if you do your thing with Soulfly because you're going to be on the road all the time. We'll find a Norwegian drummer. And they found a hell of a Norwegian drummer. They got some like 20-year-old kid that just fucking smokes me. And now he's the drummer of this band called Leprous. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
It's a progressive metal band, I think, right?
Yeah, his name's Bård Kolstad. And he's a phenomenal drummer. I mean, it's nothing that I would ever really listen to musically. It's just a little bit too far, you know. So yeah, we recorded that. I quit the band, and it sucks because that I kind of got shafted on. We had planned on going to Jens Bogren, who I was excited about, to do the mixing mastering. And I'm thinking, fuck yes, this is going to sound huge. I hear the first version of whatever song that comes out, the initial release, and I'm like, where are the drums? They buried the drums so low in the mix that you can't even hear them.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of like a technique that some bands do, as far as like they want the music to kind of be that wall of, melody, and they want the drums to kind of be hidden way back. But like, no, a lot of my friends tell me that the Turd album is my best work as far as drums are concerned. And I listened to it a couple months ago, and it's a great album. I just wish the drums were louder.
Yeah,
and
terrible
the fuckers,
mix.
Yeah, these fuckers, they listed me as like a guest musician. It says like drums and percussion, Dave. Like, come on, dude. I was in the band when we did it. It's water under the bridge. Nothing against those guys. I still talk to Vortex, Mr. Vortex, and occasionally I even talk to Oystein, who's the main guy. And I've talked to Lars a few times. He's the keyboard player. He plays in a band called White Void that's on Nuclear Blast. Very progressive sort of sounding Scandinavian kind of, almost like metal rock. They're great guys. They're really awesome guys. Great musicians.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk about the present. You have a new band going on called The Monarch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get the chance to listen to a couple of singles. Sounds really, really great. Congratulations. But please tell to all the people that didn't get the chance to listen to this band, what's the musical direction of The Monarch?
So when I was a kid, like, teenage years, I always wanted to have my own band and basically do, live the dream kind of thing, make some awesome band and have your friends in the band and go tour and rule the world. And I could never find the right musicians to work with. Everybody was either lazy or lazy. So it was something that I would sit there, like I taught myself how to play guitar, and I would sit in my room at night and write these riffs, if you want to call them that, little acoustic kind of things. And I'd record them. And I just kind of, every time I would do something with it, it would go on the back burner. So I could play with Malevolent Creation and Divine Empire and Arsis and Borknagar and Soulfly. I would put it on hold for everybody else's band because they're already established. So in 2010, we did a friend of mine, a former friend of mine, and I did sort of a demo. It had maybe 4 or 5 songs on it. We recorded it the best we could and said, okay, here it is. We put it on a shelf. Never thought to do anything with it ever again. And then about 1.5 years ago, this COVID pandemic is happening. And that guy who I had recorded it with sent me a message, and he's like, hey, remember the Monarch stuff that we did? I'm putting a portfolio together for my studio, and I remixed and mastered one of the songs. Just wanted to send it to you, see what you would think. And I listened to it, and I'm like, wow, it's the music never really got what it deserved because I always focused on other people's bands. So I said, we should go and completely re-record this. You've learned your shit as a producer. Let's really go and get like a good solid sound. Everything's in the proper time and tempo. So that's what we did. And I paid a lot of money out of my pocket. There was no record label or anything backing me up. I hadn't touched a drumstick since Bangkok with Soulfly in 2012.
Whoa.
And now it's like it was 2020 when we started working on that. So I was a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
But we wrote a couple new songs.
But your back was okay in 2020, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had surgery in 2016.
Okay.
And they say after you have back surgery that your back's never going to be the same again. So I have learned what not to do as far as how to re-aggravate my back. And, you know, I work a normal job. I'm a locomotive engineer. I run trains. So I do a lot of sitting, which, you know, I'm almost 38. So at that age, you can't sit very long without starting to go, "Rrr." But that's another story. But yeah, no, so we went in, we recorded, and it was hard playing drums again at first, but then I kind of got into it and everything happened and turned out great. And I released the record on in February with Blood Blast Distribution, who is the Nuclear Blast subsidiary. It's like their online distributor. So it's basically, it's like everything is from up here. The lyrics, the themes, you know, the artwork. I came up with all the riffs that are on that album, minus one song. There's a slower song on there called Last Dose that the singer actually contributed, which it kind of, the theme of the song kind of deals with addiction and that kind of stuff. But it felt wholesome, you know, it felt like it was full circle to put out my own album under my own band name, you know, because I was calling the shots. If I'm paying for it, it's going to be the way I want it. And like I said earlier, I'm very like nerd when it comes to this stuff. Like I want the best looking artwork, you know, the best sounding drums and guitar. I want everything to be right, you know.
You didn't answer my question. What's the musical direction of this new band?
Oh, sorry. I kind of go off into my own little tangent. The musical direction is based around, I'm very anti like singing about politics and very anti-religion. The two things that piss people off the most are religion and politics.
Yeah.
This is about sort of the fate of humanity and how horrible people can be to each other, yet how there's some sort of hidden beauty in everything. And I try to stay sort of like dabbing in those kind of subjects rather than saying, well, this guy is such a horrible bastard and here's why. You know, I try to kind of float above it and sort of give the listener some sort of like ability to say, you know what, I relate to those lyrics and I can use that and kind of determine my own assumption as to what this stuff means. So that's what I like to get from music. So I figured that's what I'm going to make everybody do. Figure it out on your own, you know?
All right. So we can get the album on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, anywhere?
Yeah, it's on all the digital Spotify, Apple, all those. It's on YouTube. We have 2 music videos for it. One's a heavy song and one is sort of a lighter, softer song.
Yeah.
Everything is, it's the monarch.org. That's our website. Right. And we're on Facebook and all that good stuff. We have shirts, CDs, drumsticks, everything.
If you like this interview, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share the video with all your friends. Also, very important, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.